of getting to her, of saving her, he would do it. The sun had reappeared over New Babylon. Rayford urged Mac McCullum to keep going toward Baghdad. Everywhere Rayford, Mac, and Carpathia looked was destruction. Craters from meteors, fires burning, buildings flattened, roads wasted. When Baghdad Airport came into sight, Rayford hung his head and wept. Jumbo jets were twisted, some sticking out of great cavities in the ground. The terminal was flattened, the tower was down, bodies strewn everywhere. Rayford signaled Mac to set the chopper down, but as he surveyed the area, Rayford knew the only prayer for Amanda or for Hattie was that their planes were still in the air when this occurred. When the blade stopped whirring, Carpathia turned to the other two. "Do either of you have a working phone?" Rayford was so disgusted he reached past Carpathia and pushed open the door. He slipped out from behind Carpathia's seat and jumped to the ground. Then he reached in, loosened Carpathia's belt, grabbed him by the lapels, and yanked him out of the chopper. Carpathia landed on his seat on the uneven ground. He jumped up quickly as if ready to fight. Rayford pushed him back up against the helicopter. "Captain Steele, I understand you are upset, but—" "Nicolae," Rayford said, his words rushing through clenched teeth. "You can explain this away any way you want, but let me be the first to tell you, you have just seen the wrath of the Lamb." Carpathia shrugged. Rayford gave him a last shove against the helicopter and stumbled away. He set his face toward the airport terminal a quarter-mile away. He prayed this would be the last time he had to search for the body of a loved one in the rubble. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. "And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound." Revelation chapter 8, verses 1 through 6. Chapter 1. Rayford Steele wore the uniform of the enemy of his soul, and he hated himself for it. He strode through Iraqi sand toward Baghdad Airport in his dress blues and was struck by the incongruity of it all. From across the parched plain he heard the wails and screams of hundreds he wouldn't begin to be able to help. Any prayer of finding his wife alive depended on how quickly he could get to her, but there was no quick here. Only sand. And what about Chloe and Buck in the States, and Zion? Desperate, frantic, mad with frustration, he ripped off his natty waistcoat with its yellow braid, heavy epaulets, and arm patches that identified a senior officer of the global community. Rayford didn't take the time to unfasten the solid gold buttons, but sent them popping across the desert floor. He let the tailored jacket slide from its shoulders and clutched the collar in his fists. 3, 4, 5 times he raised the garment over his head and slammed it to the ground. Dust billowed and sand kicked up over his patent leather shoes. Rayford considered abandoning all vestiges of his connection to Nicolae Carpathia's regime, but his attention was drawn again to the luxuriously appointed arm patches. He tore at them, intending to rip them free, as if busting himself from his own rank in the service of the Antichrist. But the craftsmanship allowed not even a fingernail between the stitches, and Rayford slammed the coat to the ground one more time. He stepped and booted it like an extra point, finally aware of what had made it heavier. His phone was in the pocket. As he knelt to retrieve his coat, Rayford's maddening logic returned. the practicality that made him who he was. Having no idea what he might find in the ruins of his condominium, he couldn't treat as dispensable what might constitute his only remaining set of clothes. Rayford jammed his arms into the sleeves like a little boy made to wear a jacket on a warm day. He hadn't bothered to shake the grit from it, so as he plunged on toward the skeletal remains of the airport, Rayford's lanky frame was less impressive than usual. He could have been the survivor of a crash, a pilot who'd lost his cap and seen the buttons stripped from his uniform. Rayford couldn't remember a chill before sundown in all the months he'd lived in Iraq. Yet something about the earthquake had changed not only the topography, but also the temperature. Rayford had been used to damp shirts and a sticky film on his skin, but now wind, that rare, mysterious draft, chilled him as he speed-dialed Mac McCullum and put the phone to his ear. At that instant, he heard the chug and whir of Mac's chopper behind him. He wondered where they were going. "Mac here," came McCullum's gravelly voice. Rayford whirled and watched the copter eclipse the descending sun. "I can't believe this thing works," Rayford said. He had slammed it to the ground and kicked it, but he also assumed the earthquake would have taken out nearby cellular towers. "Soon as I get out of range, it won't, Ray," Mac said. "Everything's down for as far as I can see. These units act like walkie-talkies when we're close. When you need a cellular boost, you won't find it." "So any chance of calling the States is out of the question," Mac said. "Ray, Potentate Carpathia wants to speak to you, but first, I don't want to talk to him, and you can tell him that. But before I give you to him," Mac continued, "I need to remind you that our meeting, yours and mine, is still on for tonight, right?" Rayford slowed and stared at the ground, running a hand through his hair. What are you talking about?" "All right, then. Very good," Mac said. "We're still meeting tonight, then. Now, the Potentate—" "I understand you want to talk to me later, Mac, but don't put Carpathia on, or I swear I'll—" "Stand by for the Potentate." Rayford switched the phone to his right hand, ready to smash it on the ground, but he restrained himself. When avenues of communication reopened, he wanted to be able to check on his loved ones. "Captain Steele," came the emotionless tone of Nicolae Carpathia. "I'm here," Rayford said, allowing his disgust to come through. He assumed God would forgive anything he said to the Antichrist, but he swallowed what he really wanted to say. "Though we both know how I could respond to your egregious disrespect and insubordination," Carpathia said, "I choose to forgive you." Rayford continued walking, clenching his teeth to keep from screaming at the man. "I can tell you are at a loss for how to express your gratitude," Carpathia continued. "Now listen to me. I have a safe place and provisions where my international ambassadors and staff will join me. You and I both know we need each other, so I suggest—" "You don't need me," Rayford said. "And I don't need your forgiveness. You have a perfectly capable pilot right next to you, so let me suggest that you forget me. Just be ready when he lands," Carpathia said, the first hint of frustration in his voice. "The only place I would accept a ride to is the airport," Rayford said, "and I'm almost there. Don't have Mac set down any closer to this mess." "Captain Steele," Carpathia began again condescendingly, "I admire your irrational belief that you can somehow find your wife, but we both know that is not going to happen." Rayford said nothing. He feared Carpathia was right, but he would never give him the satisfaction of admitting it, and he would certainly never quit looking until he proved to himself Amanda had not survived. "Come with us, Captain Steele. Just reboard, and I will treat your outburst as if it never—" "I'm not going anywhere until I've found my wife. Let me talk to Mac." "Officer McCullum is busy. I will pass along a message." "Mac could fly that thing with no hands. Now let me talk to him." "If there is no message then, Captain Steele." "All right, you win. Just tell Mac—" "Now is no time to neglect protocol, Captain Steele. A pardoned subordinate is behooved to address his superior—" All right, potentate Carpathia, just tell Mac to come for me if I don't find a way back by 2200 hours. And should you find a way back, the shelter is 3.5 clicks northeast of the original headquarters, and you will need the following password: Operation Wrath. What? Carpathia knew this was coming? You heard me, Captain Steele. Cameron Buck Williams stepped gingerly through the rubble near the ventilation shaft where he had heard the clear, healthy voice of Rabbi Zion Ben Judah trapped in the underground shelter. Zion assured him he was unhurt, just scared and claustrophobic. That place was small enough, without the church imploding above it. With no way out unless someone tunneled to him, the rabbi, Buck knew, would soon feel like a caged animal. Had Zion been in immediate danger, Buck would have dug with his bare hands to free him. But Buck felt like a doctor in triage, having to determine who most urgently needed his help. Assuring Zion he would return, he headed toward the safe house to find his wife. To get through the trash that had been the only church home he ever knew, Buck had to again crawl past the remains of the beloved Loretta. What a friend she had been, first to the late Bruce Barnes, and then to the rest of the Tribulation Force. The force had begun with 4, Rayford, Chloe, Bruce, and Buck. Amanda was added, Bruce was lost, Zion was added. Was it possible now that they had been reduced to just Buck and Zion? Buck didn't want to think about it. He found his watch gunked up with mud, asphalt, and a tiny shard of windshield. He wiped the crystal across his pant leg and felt the crusty mixture tear his trousers and bite into his knee. It was 9 o'clock in the morning in Mount Prospect, and Buck heard an air raid siren, a tornado warning siren, emergency vehicle sirens, one close, 2 farther away, shouts, screams, sobbing, engines. Could he live without Chloe? Buck had been given a second chance. He was here for a purpose. He wanted the love of his life by his side, and he prayed, selfishly he realized, that she hadn't already preceded him to heaven. In his peripheral vision, Buck noticed the swelling of his own left cheek. He had felt neither pain nor blood, and had assumed the wound was minor. Now he wondered. He reached in his breast pocket for his mirror-lensed sunglasses. One lens was in pieces. In the reflection of the other he saw a scarecrow, hair wild, eyes white with fear, mouth open and sucking air. The wound was not bleeding, yet it appeared deep. There would be no time for treatment. Buck emptied his shirt pocket, but kept the frames, a gift from Chloe. He studied the ground as he moved back to the Range Rover, picking his way through glass, nails, and bricks like an old man, assuring himself solid purchase. Buck passed Loretta's car and what was left of her, determined not to look. Suddenly the earth moved, and he stumbled. Loretta's car, which he had been unable to budge moments before, rocked and disappeared. The ground had given way under the parking lot. Buck stretched out on his stomach and peeked over the edge of a new crevice. The mangled car rested atop a water main 20 feet beneath the earth. The blown tires pointed up like the feet of bloated roadkill. Curled in a frail ball atop the wreckage was the Raggedy Ann-like body of Loretta, a tribulation saint. There would be more shifting of the earth. Reaching Loretta's body would be impossible. If he was also to find Chloe dead, Buck wished God had let him plunge under the earth with Loretta's car. Buck rose slowly, suddenly aware of what the roller coaster ride through the earthquake had done to his joints and muscles. He surveyed the damage to his vehicle. Though it had rolled and been hit from all sides, it appeared remarkably roadworthy. The driver's side door was jammed, the windshield in gummy pieces throughout the interior, and the rear seat had broken away from the floor on one side. One tire had been slashed to the steel belts, but looked strong and held air. Where were Buck's phone and laptop? He had set them on the front seat. He hoped against hope neither had flown out in the mayhem. Buck opened the passenger door and peered onto the floor of the front seat. Nothing. He looked under the rear seat, saw